All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the live stream on a Thursday night. You're joined by just me tonight. And of course, Spencer will join us in a little bit. But good to see everybody in the chat right now. I know it's a little bit of a different time, but that is totally okay. We are here for it. And I'm excited to see you all. Hey, Heels Rule, what is going on? Hey, Adam. If you have any chat if you have any questions, comments, whether it's about NASCAR news, whether it's about questions for Spencer, or whether it's about the race that we just had at Texas, let me know in the comments, and we can definitely get to those. And we'll kind of start by kind of recapping Texas a little bit and everything that kind of happened there and our thoughts towards that. We'll get into some news right off the bat. Spencer will join us around 8:15, so we will have him join us right around then. But in terms of the point situation, let's look at it. Let's talk about it. All right. So the ATYL point situation. If you follow this, then great. If not, that's totally fine. Totally respect it. But here's what we have going on for the ATYL point situation. So right now I'm still in the lead. Don't know how that's happened. Don't know how this continues to happen. But we're here, and I'm here for it. Really excited about it. 1,109 points. Adam actually found himself in second place. You remember the entire regular season for our point standings. He was dead last or very close to. Now he's not, which is pretty exciting. Robin and Dom, minus 24, Ben minus 27. They're very close in points, and then Brandon is back minus 184. But Texas shook things up a little bit, and of course, it shook things up for our actual drivers that we watch every single week in this sport. William Byron remains top of the charts essentially with his win at Texas, opening that round of 12. And the surprise for me here was seeing Martin Truex Jr. He was like second or tied for first in points with William Byron, who's ranked second though, falls to fifth. And then I think also a big shock too is Kyle Larson. He's only +2 to the good following his just rough into the race at Texas. I know, poor Brandon, right? And then we see our drivers below that cutoff line: Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, and Kyle Busch. Unfortunate for Bubba Wallace, just he had a race winning car. It's just unfortunate what happened there. Ryan Blaney got caught up in that wreck. He recovered really well, and then he got sent to the back of the pack for a speeding penalty and just wasn't able to recover. Kyle Busch, we all know what happened. He wrecked out. He said something was wrong. He still didn't know what was wrong. It was just a mess for poor Kyle Busch. So unfortunate there, but those are your point standings. I am now very up close to you all. Thoughts on the Brickyard 400 returning? Yeah, well, let's talk about that. So the Brickyard 400, NASCAR announced today that it is returning on the 2024 schedule. I am really excited about it. The past few races that we had there that were on the oval circuit were not good. What we had on the road course, though, wasn't good at all either. So I'm hoping that this return to the Brickyard, I think they said it was the 30th anniversary, that with the Gen 7 car will create a great product. My concern too is I thought that was one of the Pocono dates. It's going to be July 21st, I believe. And so the question is, where does Pocono go on the schedule? What's happening there? And bits and pieces of the schedule are coming out little by little, but it's not all forming a good picture for us yet. I'm assuming and I would hope that the full schedule comes out sometime next week. I don't really know. Alex had a follow-up question though. And so would you rather have Montreal or Iowa next year as maybe a new track? I would love Montreal. I don't know how that deal's going. I'm not sure if that's something that would be possible next year. I would love Iowa. I think that'd be fantastic. But I don't know. My whole thing here is if we want to reach an international market, if we want to go international yet again, I think Montreal is the place to go. I also saw there were rumors like maybe Kentucky comes back. I know Dale Jr. talked about it on Sirius XM NASCAR radio, and I would love that. Not Texas, Kentucky is a track that I used to go to all the time with my family. I guess my first race was back in 2017, and that was my home track. So having it back on the schedule would be great. However, I do kind of have a feeling that that's not the demographic that NASCAR is wanting to go to anymore. There's really nothing around that track. Literally, you are in the middle of nowhere when you camp at that track, when you go to the races, and even to the traffic is awful trying to get in. That's why I recommend camping at every single race you go to if you have the means to camp, because literally you don't have to worry about traffic. You are just right there at the track. So kind of unfortunate. Yeah, return to the Brickyard. I'm very excited about it. I might go to that race. I do know, however, since it's at the end of July, it's going to be hot. So I'm hesitant right now on if I want to go to that one versus the Coke 600. but we'll see. Someone made a joke too because every race I've gone to this year has rained. I will be going to the Roval next weekend, by the way, working in that race for media. So I'm nervous it's gonna rain. So fingers crossed it does not. But yeah. Yeah, no, Bubba that's the thing for Bubba Wallace. He had at Texas, he had that race won if it wasn't for that last caution. Because on that second to last restart that they did, he had a great launch. He had a great push from I don't know, I don't think it was Briscoe that was behind him at that point, and maybe it was. But he had a great launch and a great push, and he was out in the pack. And then they had that wreck that happened that put them back under yellow, and that final restart that they had in the field did not go his way at all. So I was pretty disappointed there. Again, though, Talladega is this coming weekend. I mean, it's kind of anyone's race to win, right? We all know that. But I think Bubba has a really good shot at potentially getting the win this race. And I will say, though, pulling back the points too, or pulling them back up, he's not far back in points. I know going into this race, they were like, he has to finish second place or better each race to even have a shot at making it to the next round. He was minus what, 12, something like that, before we had the Texas race, which because of how everyone above that cutoff line did, right? We had Kyle Busch who didn't do well. Brian Blaney was already below the cutoff line, but with him not finishing the race, that hurt him. With how Kyle Larson did, it shook up the points just enough to where Bubba Wallace is now treading water right below that cutoff line. And I think with his odds at Talladega, it could get him above if he stays out of chaos. My concern though is Roval. I don't know how he's going to do. My thought process too is with the schedule for next season, like, are we gonna go to the Roval again? You know what I mean? Like, are we gonna go back? And that, like, I don't know. I don't know if we should go back to the Roval or not. It's not a layout I particularly enjoy. It's not bad. But if we had to choose between cutting another road course and going back to another oval, which I think needs to happen until we figure out this product, I think going back to the Charlotte Oval next year only would be a great option. Or I don't think this should happen, but if we move Charlotte down to one date, just make it the oval, and then we go somewhere else. My concern though is we're going to cut down dates. I hope Kansas keeps 2 dates. I hope Pocono has 2 dates. There's some tracks that I'm like, ugh, I don't know, but we'll see. Same thing happened to Darlington in the first stage. He was outside the top 10. Exactly, heels rule. You're right. You're right. There's other NASCAR news too. We'll kind of talk about this in a second here, or I guess we'll talk about it now. Silly season stuff too. Priest announced his return to Stewart-Haas Racing next year in the 41, so we know that's staying. And I think the big confusion right now with Stewart-Haas Racing is, are they going to keep all 4 charters? Bob Pockrass talked like, yes, they are. That's their plan. And then that leaves the question, where does Eric Almirola go? Does he stay? Is he going to retire? Or we don't know. Is he going to stay or is he going to retire? Are the two questions we have for Eric Almirola. But Ryan Preece, I'm glad to see him back. I think too, I was going to talk about this a little later, but that whole promotional deal that they're doing, like Old Spice is back, which is awesome, and that's on Chase Briscoe's car this weekend for Talladega, and then we have Wonder Bread on Preece's car. Some shake and bake Talladega nights. I am so excited about that. If you haven't seen the social media promotions for Stewart-Haas Racing, Preece, and Briscoe for this race, you have to see it. It is genius. Well done for getting those sponsors to get on board. I'm excited to see those sponsors back. But it's been really exciting, all the lead up to Talladega. Anyone can win. And I wanted to talk to Spencer about this when he comes on in a few minutes, but talking to him about, he's a Talladega winner. He won Talladega back in 2019 in the Truck Series, and just kind of, it was a playoff race. But it's, was your mentality different if you're a non-playoff driver competing in a playoff race? How do you approach it differently? And I think that's something I think each driver can offer a different perspective on this. And even each team offers a different perspective too. Like if you have a teammate, then it's all hands on deck to help your teammate. But if it's just you're one car, you're one team, how do you race it? Obviously you want to go after the win, but you never know. You also don't want to get in the way of those playoff drivers. Will Denny Hamlin ever win the Cup championship or just let it slip away? That is a great question, Alexander. I hope he can win it this year. He's my pick to win the championship. He was last year as well. We all know what happened though. This year though, I think he has a really good shot. This round of the playoffs is decent for him. He's great at Texas, or I guess he's fine at Texas. Talladega, he's a great super speedway racer, and he's getting better at road courses. He's not great at them yet. He's not perfect at them, but he's getting better. And I know he said he's learned a lot through sim racing, through learning from Tyler Reddick even. So for Denny Hamlin, I see this being more of one of the more challenging rounds. So when we get to the next round, where what we have, Vegas, Martinsville, and I'm gonna forget the other track that's in that bunch there. But and Homestead, yeah, Homestead. That's a solid round for him, and I think there's drivers, like, even to for me, if Eric Jones made the playoffs, if somehow he won a race during the regular season, he would have been cruising this whole playoff run because all these tracks suit him very well, and it really does come down to which tracks in the playoffs in these rounds suit you best. And because there's some tracks that we go to in the playoffs only and not in the regular season, some people have an advantage because those are their best tracks. And we don't get to run them in the regular season, so you don't get to practice your setup. It's like one and done, right? So you have some issues there. Um, Shake and Bake, I love it. Talladega Nights, I will say, not my favorite NASCAR or racing related movie, I should say. I used like the first time I saw it, I saw the extended cut, and I think the jokes went on way too long, and that's why I got like not like turned off from the movie, but I was like, this isn't as funny as it could have been. I'm more of a Days of Thunder type girl, and then what was it? Literally the movie that just came out that was about it's just literally Gran Turismo, a great movie. Um, Great, King of the Trill. I will make sure to ask Spencer that question. That's a great question. Um, he said you've done a great job landing sponsor partners across multiple industries. I actually was going to ask that too. He has great partners on Blacktop Banter. I was on their podcast a month ago or 2 months ago at this point, maybe. And he's Spencer's really good at landing partners that are just genuinely good people. I'm not saying the other partners aren't, but he has a good connection with the people that he's working with. The partner that he has this weekend, they were there for his first Truck Series win, and they've been back ever since on his cars. We're going to talk about that too. So great question. Who are my picks for Talladega? I mean, again, you can't go wrong with Bubba Wallace at these super speedway courses. You really can't. My thought process is maybe a non-playoff driver wins this race. That's kind of the direction I'm heading. I think, though, we could look at Brad Keselowski, though. I think he's also really great at Talladega. So if we're looking at Cup Series drivers that could do really well, I would say, I guess in general, look at RFK. But then look at Brad Keselowski too, with RFK, and then Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace with 23XI Racing. And I will say I do see during this race this weekend, maybe Bubba and Denny work together and Reddick. I would see them working together really well. Obviously, they're the Toyota drivers, but I would see Denny Hamlin kind of helping his team that he owns versus maybe his teammates a little bit. So we'll definitely have to see how that all plays out. Yeah, anyone can win Talladega. That's true. Yeah, anyone can win Talladega. That's the tricky part about these super speedway races, and I think that's why it's so fun to have them in the playoffs because anything can happen. But at the same time, anything could happen. You could have a great round going for you. I'm just glad. I'm glad Talladega is not to start a round of the playoffs or the Cup Series, and it's not a race that ends a round. You have time to recover and rebound from it. Just because I know this race is going to be rough. Like I'm thinking Martin Truex Jr. right now. Like he is going to have a incredibly rough time. I think with Talladega, he's just not great at super speedways. As long as he's just able to keep consistent, no mistakes, because obviously, you have an issue during your pit stops, but I think Truex has been fine with so far in the playoffs and regular season. He was pretty good at. Just don't lose the draft. That's all I got to say. And Truex will be fine. But I don't want a situation like he had in the round of 16 where he had a rough 3 races and was in jeopardy of not making it to the championship 4, being one of the best drivers all season and you don't make the championship 4. That would have been a crazy storyline. I'm glad it didn't play out the way it was looking it would. Brad is due for a win for sure. And Alexander, I hope Talladega is not a wreck fest. I totally agree. Totally agree. Well, Talladega is not just for the Cup Series this weekend. It's also for the Truck Series. And I will probably, right now, I should introduce our guest. I'm very excited to have Spencer Boyd joining us tonight for the show, and we will bring him in. Spencer, what's going on?
Awesome. Hey, just checked into the hotel. Nice, well lit, but I'm here.
Perfect. No, the lighting looks great. It all looks good. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, excited to be here.
So how long was the drive for you? Were you coming from North Carolina then?
Yes, I live up in Mooresville, and typically like this ride's like 6, maybe 6.5 hours. And Atlanta traffic was crazy, some accidents. I think it took like just over 8 hours.
Oh my gosh. Well, did you drive all the way there like straight or did you take breaks?
Yeah, I mean, stop for gas once. So
Good. Perfect, perfect. Well, I'll just dive right into it here. I mean, you've been racing since you were 4, correct?
Yeah, I started out dirt bikes, go-karts, so it's been a long journey.
What pushed you to wanna race? Was it a family thing or
Yeah, I mean, for me, my dad was like definitely a gearhead, so had cool cars growing up. He raced go karts for a little bit, like right before I was born, and then he was into like buying and selling like dirt bikes and stuff like that. So at an early age, like I was off training wheels on a bike when I was like 2, and uh, so like after that, it was just like a lot of opportunity to do different like motorsport things and fell in love with go-kart racing. And then from there it was like watching Dale Jr. on Sunday, and that was the goal.
so was he your favorite driver growing up? Is that the one you looked up to?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, my dad was a huge Earnhardt fan. His side of the family, grandparents were huge Rusty Wallace. So it was like this, battle, my dad growing up. And then obviously my age group, it was, watch Dale Jr. So I had the whole, Budweiser, with my last name being Boyd, I had the Budweiser B on the back of my fire suit when I was like 5 or 6 years old. So pretty crazy looking back now.
That's amazing, and also just, like, sponsorship plug right there, just to be for the Budweiser, that's awesome. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, it's great. I look back and I'm like, you really put that logo on the back of a kid that was 6 years old, but it's pretty cool. So I've been racing my whole life, and I love it. And obviously, super stoked to be here in Talladega.
And just I mean, racing your whole life and even just the past so many years, I mean, you've experienced all of NASCAR's top 3 series, Truck Xfinity Cup, and each, I feel like, presents their own challenges and their own unique challenges, I should say, and so from your experience, can you take us through what it's been like to kinda bounce between those series the past few years for you and just what you've experienced for that?
For sure. I mean, looking back 10 years ago, I never would have thought I'd be where I am today and have ran for so many different teams. Really, like coming out of late models and skipping ARCA, going straight to trucks, and then a couple of races later, jumping in an Xfinity car. So it was just a different time. I felt like, opportunities popped up and you were able to just kind of go between truck and Xfinity as if there wasn't a big like difference.
Mhm.
Uh, they obviously drive quite a bit different, and I've had a blast. My first full time NASCAR season was with Bobby Daughter in Xfinity, and when I look back at that year, it was going to all these mile and a halves, going to racetracks that I'd never seen before. So it was a huge learning curve. And then did that for a year, and then linked up with Tyler Young, started racing trucks, and I've been there. This is my 5th year now. So it's been like a really like good home, and I've got to go to racetracks for, I look now, I'm like 7, 10 times. It's pretty wild. And then the Cup car, major difference. I haven't ran the new generation of Cup car, but the one that I was in, it was lower horsepower. It was very similar to a truck. It felt like you were heavy in the throttle a lot. So it's super similar to the truck compared to Xfinity cars. So I felt like the transition was fairly easy, but just the difference in equipment, like the big teams are so fast, and I kind of realized I think I'm going to keep truck racing and try and hone in on my craft. And I've had a lot of fun doing that.
And talk about your relationship with, Young Motorsports and how that's developed over the years and just even honing your craft and having a home to be able to do that at.
Yeah, I think it's pretty wild, when you look at like drivers' careers. It's hard to believe that I'm 8 years in NASCAR, but sticking around at the same place. Typically, you see people, 2, 3 years, and they're on to the next opportunity. And Tyler's given me an amazing opportunity to race full time, kind of build my brand within his, and his mom and dad, Becky and Randy, put a lot of money, a lot of resources into the team, and trying to build it. Obviously, being the guy to get their first win was huge and kind of like solidified my spot, which has been great. And Tyler's been awesome to work with over the years, as far as like, I've went and driven Xfinity cars for Mario Gosselin and Jimmy Means. Just different things have come up, and he's never like restricted me. So that's been really cool. I feel like a lot of people don't have that opportunity.
And you mentioned your first win. Like every time you go to Talladega, like what's the feeling like? Just knowing that history there, even too in that moment. Do you remember your thought process and the emotions? I felt like it was a very stressful situation. Like, did you win? Did you not?
Yeah, that was extremely stressful. It was a good kind of stress. I mean, I was totally pumped. I was screaming over the radio for P2 and pumped and best finish, and we had finished fourth at Daytona, so I felt like, yeah, hey, we're kind of making our name for ourselves here. With Tyler Young and Speedway racing. So I was pretty pumped. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, calm down. I think you just won. And a lot of things go through your head. You're like, yeah, right. Or there's no way that call is going to fall my way. Like I've been on the wrong side of so many calls. At that time, like coming up through late model racing and things like that, I'm like, nothing ever goes my way. So it went my way. It was unbelievable. Definitely like, tic tacs everywhere in my brain when it came to like my thoughts. I was all over the place. But like you said, when you go to Talladega, it's really like a super level playing field when you get out there in the draft. You got to have everything go your way, but pretty much it could go your way for anybody. So when you look at it, it's a great opportunity to go get a good run. It's a good opportunity for those smaller teams. I get excited. I've had the highs of highs at this place, and I ran the cup race the next day and qualified last and ran terrible. So it's one of those places where I've had the highs of highs and the lows of lows for sure, but it's still a special place to come to.
And even just as a driver right now, not in the Truck Series playoffs, but do you go into these playoff races, especially Talladega, where chaos just comes at every turn? Do you look at these races or approach them differently?
For us, I think it's, every race, you kind of have the race within it.
Mhm.
Like what your team's capable of and what would be a good day, what's not a good day. So we kind of circle what our goals are. But obviously, when you come to a super speedway, goals are a little bit different. You want to go out there and contend for the win, which obviously you got to be there at the end of the race to do that. So we kind of have our strategy and our goals in mind of where we want to be throughout the race to have a chance at the end. And then when it comes to the playoffs, I think there's trucks are pretty small when it comes to how many people are in the playoffs. So try and treat those guys with respect all the time in the playoffs. But super speedway racing, it's kind of anyone's game. Probably not going to try and hurt anyone's day, but they're not on top of my list to help them by any means.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, you have to play nice a little bit, especially probably with your like manufacturers, just trying to help everyone out stay in the draft. But also, you're out to win your own race, so it's a really weird balancing act. I feel right.
For sure. I mean, I don't know the last time that a playoff guy won a super speedway race. At Talladega. I don't know if one's ever won as far as advancing to the next round and things like that. It's been a lot of the smaller teams that have won. I don't think the Benedetto was in the playoffs when he won. So, honestly, like you said, you work with your manufacturer. I've been with Chevy for like 99% of my starts. So obviously, I'll do what I can. And the year that I won the 24 Moffitt was in a Chevy and he pushed me. So, you kind of got to return the favor, but it's ultimately, every man's race for sure.
And you have a partner that was with you for your first race, the Alabama Roofing Professionals. And we did have a question even before you joined the stream too, just talking about how good you've done at landing these sponsors and the relationships you've built, like Blacktop Banter, for example. I met Chris and Marvin at Mid Ohio, super nice guys. And asking one of the fans in the comments asked, do you have any advice for folks who are trying to land partners, and how have you gone about that in forming those relationships?
Yeah, I mean, Alabama's been a huge part of my career. If you watch that interview from winning in 2019, I mean, I didn't have a sponsor 9 days before the race, and we put that together last minute, and it was perfect, right? So they had the best case scenario happen and go win the race, and they've been a great supporter of mine, like I said, through the highs and the lows since then. So it's always good to come back to Talladega and know that I have them on board, and we're pumped to go make it happen again. But when it comes to partners, it's all about, the network and growing over time. And I get a lot of questions about, how we land deals and things like that. And it's a lot of work, but really it's like getting those tentacles out there and just reaching a lot of different industries. And for me, I mean, we go from lumber to roofing to beer salt to it's crazy how many different industries have supported my career. And at the end of the day, it's really due to the fan base that stuck behind me and been with me for a long time. Obviously, we don't always have the best results, and this year's been a trying one, but everybody supporting me and giving those partners a reason to jump behind me is what's kept me out on a racetrack.
I was gonna say, your partner, this would have been, I think, like maybe 1 or 2 races ago, but Twang, that was a cool partner.
Yeah, Twing Beer Salts. They're out of San Antonio, Texas, made in America. Obviously, Montucky Cold Snacks is a growing beer company that's been with me for a few years. They actually got with me after the win at Talladega because I didn't spray any beer.
Nice.
They've been waiting for me to do that in Victory Lane, so hopefully we can do that here real soon. But it's a great partnership with Twang. It aligned well with Montucky. Myself, I have a lot of ties to Texas, and putting beer salt on your beer in Texas is like a no-brainer. And in North Carolina, people are like, what is this? We don't understand. They're wanting to put it inside the beer. You put it around the rim, and it's available in 3,500 Walmarts as of last week. So
Nice.
now everybody can try it.
And even to okay, I'm derailing this completely, but I know today silly season news announced, I guess, or scheduling news, North Wilkesboro is returning. And of course the truck series is going to be returning to that track next year. How excited are you for that? And even to just what are you hoping to accomplish at the track with the repave, or what do you think about the repave with the track?
I think I'm much like every NASCAR fan when it comes to waiting for the schedule. And these little pieces are great, but it'd be nice to have the whole picture. But North Wilkesboro was awesome. I mean, to be able to be a part of that race, my partner, Latitude Aero, he was selling peanuts and popcorn out there years ago. And so obviously that racetrack meant a lot to him. And for me, I'd driven by it so many times. The surface was extremely unique. I had never been there in a late model, didn't do any of that stuff, the week prior to the NASCAR stuff. So it was a unique challenge. I liked it. I thought it produced a good race. I mean, I was having fun out there. But the repave, obviously, NASCAR has to look at it as we don't need pieces of the pavement coming up and, delaying the race or going through a radiator and ruining someone's day. So I understand that NASCAR's in a box, but I think the repave might be a little too soon. But ultimately, it's probably going to increase speed. It's going to be super fast.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you. I kind of feel the repave is too soon, but I do agree with you too. You have to look at kind of the safety aspect of this, but I'm excited for it. I'm ready for North Wilkesboro to come back. And with tracks coming back to the schedule, or potentially, I know Rockingham has been a track that's been in the mix of, maybe we revive this. I know you had success there and in legend cars. Is this a track that you would like to see on the NASCAR schedule again at some point?
Yeah, I mean, I raced road course there in legend cars and the little track outside. So growing up, it's cool to anytime you could race a quarter mile at Texas, Charlotte, go race Rockingham. You felt like a superstar getting to go in those gates and through those tunnels. But Rockingham, I mean, all the races that I watched on TV looked awesome. And then obviously, I can't remember if Larson or Kane won last time they were there, but it was a big show. So I'd love to go back. Any racing we can do close to home is always a positive. It's cool to race in North Carolina. Those fans are wild, crazy. Wilkesboro was packed. The Charlotte truck race has always been a good one. So and Darlington. I mean, it's not North Carolina, but it's close. So yeah, I mean, we could do some more races there in the Carolinas for sure. And that track, I think that's where Tyler Young made his truck debut. So could be cool.
It'd be cool to get a win there, kind of bring it all full circle. You know what I mean?
Bring him out of the office and get him back in a truck. I don't know.
Honestly, that'd actually be really cool. That's like your next project to work on. I feel like that's what you should try to do. Get him back in the truck.
I'm gonna text after this.
And then last question, speaking of, Tyler Young and the Youngs, again, silly season, everything's kind of coming out pieces by piece. I don't know if you've announced what your plans are for 2024, but is there anything you can share with us about kind of what your plans are next year?
Yeah, for me, it's a work in progress. Every year it really comes down to partners sticking with me, new ones coming on board, and just making sure everything works out the way that we want. So hopefully have an announcement soon. I'd say it's probably going to be after the race season this year. So we'll see, but. A lot of great people are supporting me, and the Youngs have always been great. So for me, I just want to be in a seat and be out there racing, and I've made so many friends along the way.
Speaking of friends, Howie DiSavino, those in the audience, you all know Howie's been on the show before, but Howie wanted me to tell you hello. So
Awesome. We were in text earlier, but hopefully we see Howie out at the racetrack soon. He's been working out with us over at Fit Stop quite a bit, and he's got a huge desire to be out in the sport full time. So hopefully he can get it put together.
absolutely. Well, Spencer, it's been wonderful having you on the show. For anyone who wants to follow you on social media or just kind of keep up with your schedule, where can they find you?
Yeah, Facebook, Spencer Boyd Racing fan page, Twitter, Spencer Boyd, Instagram, Spencer Boyd PR. Sorry, I can't make it all the same. Somebody else has a cool name, but follow me on there. I run all my own socials, so it's always fun to interact. And tune in. Excited about Talladega and looking forward to closing out the season.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Spencer, for joining.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye. Perfect. That was Spencer Boyd joining the show. Thank him for his time. Always fun to talk about. And yeah, Howie wanted to make sure I said hi to Spencer, so definitely had to do that. So hopefully we'll have Howie back on the show again soon. But great guest. Wishing him all the best this weekend at Talladega. All the chaos again. Maybe get another win. Maybe he can get another win at Talladega. That'd be pretty sweet. I will probably hold him to trying to get Tyler Young back racing back in. So we'll have to see. But good to see you all in the chat still. Thank you all words for asking your questions. Yeah, what's going on? Yeah, so cool. Who will win the truck race? Well, now I'm hoping it's Spencer. I've been hoping it's Spencer, but maybe I think Spencer can do it. I mean, it's really interesting, you're talking when, we just talked to Spencer, if you're just joining us, Spencer Boyd, and kind of talking about, non-playoff driver, how do you race this race? And it's a race within a race. I really like that answer because you're having to think, what's best for you, what's best for your team, what's best for your manufacturer. And it's a tricky balance at Talladega, not going to lie. And I know if you're a non-playoff driver, you don't want to be the one to get those playoff drivers in trouble and jeopardy and wrecks. So it's very, very interesting. No, yeah, King of the Trill, Spencer is a good dude. I hope his luck changes soon. I know it's been an up and down season for him, but hopefully things turn around very quickly. We'll talk about some more NASCAR news. Excuse me, real quick. I feel like there's a lot that came out this week, but there also isn't a lot. You know what I mean? Speaking of, I guess we'll go back to the Truck Series news. Daniel Dye to drive for MHR in 2024. So that's news. He announced a few weeks ago when GMS was like, we're closing our doors at the end of the season. He was like, hey, I already have a full-time deal signed for next season at a prominent team. So that's really exciting. Going to be teammates. So it's going to be really cool. Haley Spencer 1 to a Talladega would be fun. Honestly, here for it though. That'd be awesome. Yeah, anything can happen at Talladega. You all know it. Yeah, but if Christian Eckes is staying with MHR next season, I think he is. Again, like, I don't know. Everything is so unconfirmed with silly season right now. I usually just wait to be like, here's who's here, here's who's going to be teammates until the end of the season, or I guess the beginning of next year, I should say. But yeah, Daniel Dye moving to MHR. I think it's a good move. I mean, they have strong equipment. Christian Eckes has been killing it in that 19 truck. So very excited to see what Daniel Dye can do. Again, there's no news out about Grant Enfinger, what he's going to do. Rajah Caruth, he's going to have a chance to ride for Hendrick in the 17 car at Phoenix in Xfinity. So that'll be really cool. A good opportunity for him. He doesn't know what he's doing next season either. So there's just a lot in the air. Adam, you bring up a very good piece of news that we have to talk about here. Talking about Spire buying Kyle Busch Motorsports, it is crazy news. It is totally bizarre. Just because I feel like at Michigan, when I was there, I was reporting for TobyChristie.com and of course above the yellow line when we were there. Kyle, during his media time, was talking to us and he was like, yeah, Chase Purdy and our drivers are going to be returning to their seats next season at KBM, and it all seemed good. So, in my perspective, is this deal happened very quickly, or it happened behind the scenes very quietly. And a lot of you all were talking too about, Spire has taken big leaps during this silly season and off. I guess when we go into the off season, big leaps as they try to situate themselves. With Zane Smith, they bought a charter from BJ McLeod. They bought a charter from Live Fast, and now Zane Smith is going to be racing in one of their cars in a partnership with Trackhouse. That's a really big deal, Cup Series wise. Truck Series, you just bought a whole other team. You acquire their assets. And of course, Spire is looking for a bigger place to house themselves now that they're expanding their cup teams and everything in between. But now in the Truck Series, they're going to be racing hopefully three trucks full time. I would expect Chase Purdy to move there full time. I would expect Nick Sanchez. Nick Sanchez even commented on Twitter, looking forward to next year. So I would expect him to move over there as well. So there's a lot in the air. I don't know how I feel about this, but I respect the decision by Kyle Busch. I don't know if I have his statement teed up for you all here, but you can find it on his social media pages. Just saying, he's at a different point in his life right now. He has now 2 kids. Back in 2010 is when they started this whole adventure, and I respect the decision. I mean, such a legendary team. I feel like right now we're losing 2 titans of teams. We're losing GMS and Kyle Busch Motorsports at the end of the season, which is crazy. But it goes to show, 1, change of time, but 2, we have to look at is the cost of running teams now in NASCAR with how the financials are. Is that becoming too much of a burden? We're seeing teams buy out. So I don't know. It's a very interesting dynamic that's happening right now. All the best for Kyle Busch and Samantha and all of their success. Congratulations to them on a very successful tenure for KBM. So if you, I guess the moral of the story is if you have a chance to go to KBM before they kind of shut their doors and it becomes Spire, if you have the chance to go to Mooresville, I think they're in Mooresville or Huntersville, do it. Okay, good. So far the weather's perfect there. KBM Trail. So we don't know Grant and Finger's plans. I'm hoping we learn them soon, or I'm assuming this might be an off-season thing, but I really do hope that Grant gets a ride. He's too talented to not have a ride. Will Kyle run any truck races next year? That's a good question. So the funny thing is about this is, he was like, I'm going to keep this team for Brexton for when he's ready to race, but that's a long time between when Brexton's ready to go truck racing and now. There's a few years in between that time. So it's, what makes sense right now. And Kyle even said, Brexton's schedule is just about as busy as his. And I think even too in his interview that he did with NASCAR Digital, Kyle Busch, he was like, yeah, Brexton is signed to a KBM contract, so people can't try to, take him from us and try to, I guess, snatch him, I guess. So then it's like, okay, is it like a KBM contract? Like you're signed with Kyle, your dad, or does that go away? So there's still a lot we don't know. There's going to be media availability this weekend at Talladega, though. For all those involved in this deal. So hopefully we'll get our questions answered then. Reminds me when Kevin Harvick sold his team. That's absolutely, I do agree with that. And that's the thing too. And I think this reminds me, this reminds me of Chip Ganassi when they sold to Trackhouse. Chip said that he didn't want to sell. He wasn't looking to sell, but Justin Marks basically gave an offer he couldn't refuse. So I don't know if this was the same thing for Kyle. I don't know if this is something they've been thinking about for a while. I also know, probably unrelated, but they're downsizing. I don't even know who posted this, but I think it might have been The Athletic or something, but Kyle Busch selling his mansion and they're going to move somewhere else. I don't know. I think in the interview with NASCAR, Samantha was like, I want to have chickens. I want to have a farm. And they're on a lake house. And they're like, well, we can't have a farm and chickens and whatever on a lake. So just life changes. And that's just kind of what happens when you get older, they have more kids. So I don't know. Again, wish them all the best. Just crazy piece of news that none of us expected. And I feel like that's what it's been this silly season. And even too, looking long term, I wonder if these team owners, these drivers are kind of gearing themselves up towards a new TV contract. What's that going to look like? Whether they're securing themselves now so they're prepared for that, I don't know. We still don't know anything about the TV deal, which I would have expected at this point. We would have had some sort of announcement, but stuff still seems to be in the air, which is crazy. And then again, too, we're getting bits and pieces of the schedule. And like Spencer Boyd talked about, he's like, I would like to just have the schedule out all now. So we have it all right in front of us. And I would too, getting the bits and pieces. is frustrating, but that also tells me that there are a few schedulings that aren't worked out yet to where we can't have the schedule all the way. So I don't know what the holdup is, but it's going to be very interesting. Yeah, silly season gets crazier and crazier. You said it. You said it. Let me see. What other news we had to talk about? Or was that kind of it? Let's see, we talked about North Wilkesboro coming back. We talked about it with Spencer Boyd. We talked about, well, I guess we also talked about the Brickyard 400 a little bit, talked about our thoughts there. I hope to be going to that race, but I also am aware that it will probably be a really humid, hot, gross race because it's the end of July. I'm just not like the dog days of summer type vibe. I don't know if I want to be like at the track for that. And then we also know that that used to be a Pocono date. What happens to that? So, my thought process is if you are a regular season ticket holder at any of these tracks, be prepared for your date, your typical date or week to move somewhere else. I'm not saying that's going to be for all the tracks, but I guess from what we've had released so far, it makes me believe that things are going to switch around quite drastically. Let's preview Talladega real quick. Hopefully I've got my track stats and driver facts correct here. Let me make sure to pull those up on the screen for y'all so you all can see it. There you go. 188 laps. Oh, about 500 miles of racing. I know there's like the 0.08, but hang in there with me. Of course, Talladega is one of the largest tracks on the NASCAR schedule. 60, 60, and 68 laps make up this race. And that's for our driver stats. You all are asking me, who's going to win Talladega? Do we know? I don't know. But Chase Elliott was the last driver to win this race last year, which kind of I kind of forgot about that. Honestly, going through these stats, I was like, oh crap, you're right. Brad Keselowski, though, has the most wins of any active driver at this track. So look out for Brad Keselowski and him and Chris Buescher. They've been great at super speedway, but I also look at Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon, who have also been a great pairing at super speedway races. We've seen them do well at Atlanta, not a super speedway technically, but in feel and style it is. They did great at Daytona. So I don't know. We'll have to see how they do. But of course, Eric Jones yet again in the top of the stats here, doing very well. We also see drivers like Ty Dillon, who's in the best averages overall at this track. Hasn't gotten a win here in Cup Series, but maybe this is the time where just crazy things happen, and maybe Ty Dillon gets a win when it's all said and done. I don't think that's going to happen, but again, crazy things can happen. Todd Gilliland has one of the best average finishes at this track too. Chase Briscoe's up there as well. Again, Briscoe running a Talladega Nights tribute schemes, I guess, having Old Spice back in the sport, pretty cool. And then look again too, like William Byron's up here in the stats as well. Denny Hamlin, obviously. So there's a big mix. And again, don't count out Ryan Blaney. I said that this is going to be a good round for him, and it was until it wasn't last race when he made up all those places and then got caught in that wreck. So it's crazy. Will Talladega have a first-time winner? That's a great question, Alexander. My thought process is maybe we'll see it. That's not out of the question. I think that's definitely something that we could see. The question is who, though? And maybe I'm like, okay, so maybe like it is maybe Todd Gilliland. I don't know. I mean, up there in the stats, right? But then again, like last week with Texas, I thought that Ryan Blaney was going to have a fantastic weekend. It just Texas is such a good track for him. Qualified, practiced horribly. All of Penske did. So it really is, especially with these tracks in the playoffs now, because we haven't gone to Talladega since I actually don't remember when we went to Talladega earlier this year, but it really is. Did you learn what you needed to learn earlier in the year to prepare you for these playoff races, or are you way off? And my concern is that some of these teams, and I think Penske in general, is going to be way off going into this race. And that can't happen. And even Joey Logano was on Sirius XM NASCAR radio today, and he was like, I hear the fans' frustration about how Penske's performed, and it makes me upset too. And it's just it's not how we've known Penske to perform. You know what I mean? Adam said, I can remember when Brad Keselowski won his first race at Talladega, driving for James Finch. Oh my gosh, what a throwback. Honestly, I think this would be great for Brad to get a win this weekend. And I think he's been super strong. And even too, we've seen Buescher shine. I'm ready for Brad to kind of take the bull by the horns and get a win. And I think a lot of it has to do with he's been a really good teammate, right? Brad Keselowski is such a good teammate. I think at some point, though, he's going to have to be selfish, and I think this is the time to do it. Obviously, don't do it at the expense of your teammate if there's a wreck that might happen. I don't want to have a Joey and Brad situation. I think this was like the year before Brad switched to RFK. But I don't want to have that type of situation where you're trying to go for a win and you wreck out your teammate just not thinking about it. I don't think Brad would do that to Chris, but I don't want that type of situation. Let me see. Yeah, I got Brad winning. I was like, we're all Brad Keselowski fans here. I say that we definitely see him winning this weekend for sure. I'm pulling for Jones. Crazy how legacy. Yeah, Eric Jones. Eric Jones is also a very good pick this weekend. Again, he has been solid in the first round of the playoffs at every single track that we went to. Let's see, Darlington, Kansas, and I am missing a track because I cannot think of it. Literally, the first round was just such a blur. You all are going to put it in the comments, and I will thank you in advance. But he was good at every single track that we went to in the first round of these playoffs. I expect him to do very well. I don't think he'll do well at the Oval. That's where I think I see him kind of declining a little bit. But Eric Jones, a solid pick for this weekend. I think of my regular or my random picks that we do for ATYL, I think I put Eric Jones in that pick. We usually pick 5 drivers, and then we do a random draw. And wherever you get drawn, whether you pick first, second, third, fourth, whatever it is, you have drivers that kind of fill those slots. I don't even know if that makes sense of how we do our random picks. But Eric Jones is definitely in my lineup. Penske is a big mess, king of the trill. I'd put RFK and Furman Motorsports ahead of them in performance. Yeah, if we're talking about how the Fords have performed this year, I put them ahead of Penske as well, and I don't know what happened. Obviously, Ryan Blaney, I mean, they have wins this year. Yeah, like Joey won earlier this year. Blaney, of course, won the 600 in a dominant fashion, but that's the only time I feel Penske has been dominant this year, and that is a major concern. So we will have to see how this goes for them. Yeah, we all got the 4 train at Talladega for sure. First, it's time Chris pushes Brad to the win. Yeah, it's definitely time to see. I don't want to say Chris repay the favor because I don't know if there's anything to be repaid necessarily. More so if Brad is in a winning position, I would hope, and I do believe, just feeling like we know Chris and his vibe and everything about him, I guess, in the way that we should about a driver, that he will probably end up pushing Brad to a win if it came down to it. We also know, and I guess we should look at the points again. So let me pull this up again. I think this is slide 3. You all know I love my slides. If we look at the points again, though, you will see that, yeah, Buescher's in a pretty good point situation. So if it came down to it, pushing Brad wouldn't be a bad idea, especially if you want to try to make history with RFK trying to go to the championship after just years of just not even advancing this far into the playoffs. This would be a great moment for that team. So if it came down to it, and if Chris is in a good position at the end of the race, he's in good point standings. Because again, going into a race, we know that if you are like 25th in points, and if you have a bad day, you are in fear of going below that cutoff line. So anyone, Chris Buescher on back in points, you are concerned regardless. Denny Hamlin, he has some wiggle room, that's fine. But again, it'll be interesting to see how this goes. Less than 20 laps to go at Talladega. It's anyone's race for sure. And we see this again, too, with all our super speedway races. We see drivers who are going, I mean, they'll be side by side. And even, too, what we saw, we saw at Daytona. One of the best super speedway races I've seen in a long time. And I feel like we've said that, I guess, or I've said that after every single super speedway race we've had with this Gen 7 car, but they are side by side, or they're 3 wide for every single stage. And then before the stage breaks, obviously we have some movement trying to get those stage points, but then with 20 to go, it is shuffling around. It is anyone's game. So yeah, every time I watch Talladega, I get nervous too. I really do. For me too, it has to do, again, there's no driver that I favor over another. But there are storylines that I do root for, and there's a difference there. So, like, if Brad is able to get a win or he's at front, I'm going to be standing, I'm going to be nervous because I'm like, this would be great. RFK's team owner, Brad Keselowski, gets a win after going winless for so long, and RFK's Cinderella story of a year. Like, that is the storyline that I am rooting for going into this race, right? There's other storylines, too, that I think would be great to see. I think even if Ryan Blaney's able to get a win, advance himself to the next round of the playoffs, everybody, I think, has Ryan and Kyle out after this round. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of people are counting on Kyle Busch and Ryan Blaney to leave the playoffs after this round. And I think it'd be great if Kyle was able to say, I still got it. I got this win. Same with Ryan Blaney saying, hey, you guys doubt Penske this year. I'm going to prove why you shouldn't. We've had a rough year. Yes, that's not questionable at all, but we're still able to get it done. And I think with Kyle Busch, he's doubted himself quite a bit the past few weeks. He's been very upfront about how he feels he's been letting his team down and how he feels that just things never go his way. When he's trying really hard, something bad happens. And I think for Kyle Busch, a win would be great for his confidence and for his team's confidence. And a lot of it has been wrong place at the wrong time. This issue, though, again, I still don't actually know. If you guys know, let me know in the comments. What happened to Kyle's car during the race at Texas? I don't know what happened to the wheel. I don't know because I don't think it was a loose wheel. They said that seemed like the tire had little air pressure in it. So I don't know. Yeah. I just want to see close racing without the big one. That's the thing too. And I know a lot of us might cheer for Rex, and I never cheer for Rex. I don't like that idea, but I know we also cheer for chaos and whatever. I think we can have entertainment without the Rex. Obviously, though, if you were a little bit newer to the sport and you see all the promos that we put together before all these races, they all have Rex because Rex are supposed to produce excitement. But hopefully, if there's newer fans that are going to be watching Talladega, hopefully the racing is enough to keep you around without the Rex. I hope that everyone stays safe. I think too, even looking at the TV ratings, NASCAR was the #1 sport on TV last weekend, or I guess the #1 sport on the network last weekend. So that was really positive, a step in the right direction. There's been a lot of talk about Formula One losing the momentum that it's had with the ratings, whether it be TV, whether it be social media, because of the dominance that Max Verstappen has had. There's not a battle for the championship. It's been decided already like a month and a half ago. So I think I don't know what outlet posted the difference between social media last year to this year, but it has been a significant drop for Formula One because there's no competition right now. And I will say, I will admit, I don't watch Formula One. I know enough about it to just have small talk about it. I watched 2 seasons ago. I watched that season, but then since then, it just hasn't really enticed me. And then again, this is not bashing Formula One at all. This is just what I've seen, what I've noticed. So it'll be interesting. Who do you think will win the truck race at Talladega? Good question. I mean, Spencer Boyd seems very confident. I say, why not? He could win it. Again, anyone could win it. I think Matt Benedetto. Well, here's the thing. I guess we should talk about this too before we go here. Matt is not returning to Rackley. He's done. He got cut basically after he got cut from the playoffs, which is it was very interesting. We talked about this last week too, but filling his place. Let me double check on my phone. I know it's like Taylor on your phone during a stream, how unprofessional. But more so, can you all remember in the comments who's filling in for him? Rackley. Because I think, yeah, Chandler Smith. Sorry, it's going to be Chandler Smith. I don't know if y'all put it in the comments here, but yeah, Chandler Smith is filling in for Matt Benedetto. For the rest of the races for the truck series, there's going to be different drivers in there. But this is a great opportunity for Chandler Smith, obviously, running full time with Colleague and Xfinity, but it's another chance for him to just kind of get more seat time wherever he can, right? So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that works. I am bummed for Matt. This would have been a great race for him to probably win if he could. Haley Deegan, heck, she could be in the mix too. Who knows? Again, it's not me trying to be kind of just broad with my guesses. But it's true with Talladega, Daytona, you're going to be broad with your guesses, but you know who your typical good super speedway racers are. I wouldn't be surprised though if we saw like another win from Corey Heim or something like that. But again, you have to see who has the numbers, and Chevy has the numbers in truck. So I'm leaning more towards a Chevy driver. Christian Eckes could get another win. Why not? Even too, Ben Rhodes, great at super speedways. Maybe he's able to kind of pick up some speed again, get back in there. But yeah, Matt Benedetto, that whole situation is really odd. I talked to him back at Mid-Ohio. I talked to Rackley and, the relationship that he's had with Rackley and Rackley's had with him. And things seem positive. So for things to end abruptly was very shocking. I heard a rumor this week that Deegan could be getting Xfinity ride next year. I've heard the same rumors too. I need to turn off my alarm real quick, y'all. Sorry. I've heard the same rumors too. I heard that AM Racing is expanding, or they're looking to expand, and the top candidate is Haley Deegan. I think that'd be a great place for her. I think that she needs an Xfinity ride to show what she can really do. And that's not to say that her performance in truck is meaningless. It's not to say that a lot of people say maybe she doesn't deserve the Xfinity ride. Maybe she does. For me, it's more so we've seen in her one start in Xfinity, or her first start in Xfinity, that she was able to get something done or get something working in that ride that she had. So I think if she had something full-time at Xfinity, I would hope that that would be her chance to prove herself, and she really did prove herself and her talent and what she can do. So we'll have to see. I got a Sat Ford being dominated team who've been training with each other. There we go. Yeah, I think she'll do much better in Xfinity too, for sure. Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting, you guys. It'll be a fun weekend of racing, but that is it for the ATYL live stream Thursday night. Again, thank you to Spencer Boyd for joining us on that interview. If you want to listen back to it again, of course, you can listen back to it on YouTube or Facebook, where you all are watching right now. I'll also have it up on all platforms of podcasting that you more, but also make sure for more NASCAR news, visit tobychristie.com. And of course, for more from us at Above the Yellow Line, make sure to go to aboveyellowline.com to get your merchandise and to learn more about what we do, what we're all about. We've kind of had a rebrand happening a little bit over here. So we do a lot more than just the content that you see, you and me. So make sure to go to abovetheyellowline.com for merchandise and much more. And like I said, again, this interview with Spencer Boyd will be up on all podcasting platforms, and our normal ATYL full race recap episodes will be up there too. And I'm excited for the off season to start, not because I'm ready for racing to go away, but we're going to have some good off season content for you all that we're starting to put together, get in the works. Hopefully some gaming, some other things involved in there too. So just make sure you check out Above the Yellow Line on all podcasting platforms and every week on the Toby Christie.com YouTube and Facebook pages. But that is it from us. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media pages. Thank you all so much for joining me tonight on this live stream. Have a great and safe weekend, a fun weekend of racing. If you're going to Talladega, stay safe, have fun. But that has been it. Until next time, I'll see you all. Bye.